guys, so I am beyond pumped for today's session because the Voigtlander Bessa R2a is back on the channel. So for a year, I actually wasn't able to shoot with this camera. In the Philippines, it jammed and locked up on me. It wasn't until recently I opened it up and figured out the problem, and so now the camera is back to its functioning order. This is huge because the Bessa R2a, prior to me owning the Leica, was my main rangefinder camera, and this is pretty much what I shot mostly all of my street photography on at that time. Now I do gotta say though, the camera is unique in a ton of different ways. First and foremost, the rangefinder adjustment is completely off. It's not aligned, so this is gonna be more of a scale/zone focus camera only, and even though it focuses nicely here, the rangefinder is not aligned, so I won't be able to use that accurately, which means this is going to be a pure kind of bred street photography zone focusing machine, and it features aperture priority. And if you go back about 2 years into the older videos, you guys will see a ton of content wrapped around this beauty right here. But all right, so the way we're gonna do this is we are gonna drop you guys over into the GoPro, and then I'm gonna load up the camera through there. But man, beautiful weather today. A lot more activity out on the streets. I don't know about you guys, but lately, because of everything that's been happening, you know, it's a lot slower than usual, but it looks like the action is good today. So let's load the camera up, and here it is, you guys, minus the mask, the Voigtlander Bessa R2a. Let's get it. And also really quick, just to go over the setup, the Voigtlander Bessa R2a has the 35mm f2 Summicron King of Bokeh, and I'm going to be shooting some Portra 400 today. So let's drop you down, let's get loaded up, and let's just start shooting. Alright, you guys, so as we kind of go through and shoot, you guys might notice that all I'm really doing is switching my aperture. So I'm shooting the R2a in aperture priority. I'm putting more of a focus on focusing. It's a lot more of that run and gun, you know, not really trying to fish and set up focus too accurately. As long as I'm at f8, I have a ton of room for adjustment. So you guys will see what I'm talking about here. I'm heading up to Union Square and let's take some more photographs. Come on, what? Get closer to him right there. There it is. Yeah. 1, 2, and 3.
Damn! That's what's up, right? You gonna get an A+.
You crazy.
Just doesn't last long.
This car.
Thank you.
You mind if I take a photo of the wheel here?
That's cool.
Alrighty, thank you.
$5.
What year is this?
70.
70?
Yeah.
Oh man. How'd you keep her in such good shape?
I don't drive it much.
It's beautiful.
It stays in the city.
Does it? Nice. Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Alright you guys, so it's been about a week since we made those photographs in San Francisco with the Voigtlander Bessa R2a, and I just want to not only talk about the camera itself, but also provide you guys with a little bit of value and just go over some like zone focusing / scale focusing tips before we end the video. I try to always, incorporate something that is of value for you. Maybe, you're new to zone focusing, or if you've never heard of it before, you guys can pick up on some tips here in the end of this video. But first things first, man, I was very happy with the way the photographs turned out. Being that I was only zone focusing, I was pretty accurate in terms of nailing focus, although I was still shooting at around f8 f5.6. It gave me a lot of room for error. But the Bessa R2a, you guys, has been super fun to shoot. After taking it out that day, I probably went out and shot this camera a couple more times, and I haven't really gotten all the scans back, just the ones that you guys saw in today's video. But so far it looks really good. I'm really happy also with the aperture priority on this camera, just because shooting with the Leica, for example, the Leica is a great camera for me, but most of the time I'm shooting Sunny 16. I rarely bring that meter unless I'm like out there shooting color film and I need to make sure that, or maybe slide film for example, and I need to nail exposure every single time. That's when I will bring that meter, but most of the time, you guys, I'm just Sunny 16 and possibly compensating for overexposure. But that's one of the great things about the R2a that I really do enjoy. Overall, just the aperture priority. As you guys seen in the images, perfectly exposed. The second thing that kind of bugs me about this camera, and you know, I didn't realize it, but the R2as, the Bessas in general, have went up in price immensely. I picked the R2a up for $500 in 2018, and R2as on eBay right now are going for $1,700 a piece. I didn't know that, so I'm possibly very much considering sending this out for repair, even if it costs me up towards $300-400, just to get the rangefinder fixed, because I didn't know that the R2as were still going for that much money. So it might be worth it in my opinion, and it's a camera that I definitely want to keep around for the long run. But I want to provide you guys again with some tips for zone focusing and scale focusing for street photography. And if you guys don't know what zone focusing or scale focusing is, essentially it's just a way for you to be able to focus by using the hyperfocal distance on top of your lens to measure out a predetermined area of focus, so you know where you're going to be focused at before you snap the shutter. For example, on top of your lens here, this is my Summicron right here. Let me put it up towards some good light. So on my Summicron, you guys can see there on the left side, I have f/16 here at the very bottom, and that is your aperture markings. Those are going to be mirrored on the right side as well. And this is essentially your scale. It says f/16, f/11, f/8, f/4, f/2, etc. On top of that, you're going to have your distances. So in the orange there, you have it in feet, and then in the white marking right under it, you have it in meters. And that's going to be standard on most lenses that have hyperfocal scales. Now, I will be linking up here in the little card a full tutorial on my zone focusing technique. If you guys have never heard of it before, I would highly recommend you watch that. Maybe come back to this video, because I'm really just trying to give you guys some tips here that you guys can utilize if you already know what zone focusing is. So check that out, come back to this video, and then pick up where you left off. But if you know what zone focusing is, let's continue on, you guys. So the first tip that I have for you guys, especially now that it's summertime and there's going to be a lot more available light, is to try to shoot anywhere between f/8 to f/16. Zone focusing works much better with a smaller aperture, just because you're gonna get a wider range of focus. Just like when you shoot at like f2, you're gonna get shallow depth of field. There's a small range of focus there. When you shoot at a smaller aperture like f/16, you're gonna get a much wider range of focus. So at f/16, we have about 2.5 feet all the way up to about 5 feet of focus. So even if I were to leave it here, anything between 2.5 feet and about 5 feet is going to be an acceptable, reasonable focus. Now that does not mean that it's going to be tack sharp. Generally, if you want to get something that is tack sharp, you want to set your focus pinpoint on that. So that's tip number 2, you guys. Just know that just because you are going to be in the range of focus, it doesn't mean it's going to be tack sharp. It's just going to be acceptable focus. Now, to get kind of those tack sharp photos, you need to make sure you measure beforehand. So my next tip would be setting a predetermined range of focus, a set distance that you guys know is going to be good for focusing. So for me personally, I feel very comfortable photographing people between 4 feet and about 5 feet, and that's just me with my 35mm lens. I feel like that's a good little balance there. So what I'll do generally is I will take my camera, and let's say I'm shooting here at like f8, and right there where it says, so wherever that little arrow above the 2 is pointing is where you're going to be pre-focused to. So I will generally set it to about 4 feet, which is essentially 1.2 meters. And that means at 4 feet, whatever I'm focusing at, as long as they are 4 feet away, it's going to be tack sharp. But because I'm still shooting at f8, I still have a little bit after 3, so I'm just going to say 1 meter to about 1.5 meters in acceptable focus. So all in all, I'm basically protected in terms of my setup right here. At f8, if I pre-focus to about 4 feet or 1.2 meters, I still have between 1 meter and 1.5 meters to still have a little bit of wiggle room for focus. And so as long as they are within a reasonable distance of 4 feet, a little bit before or a little bit after, they're still going to be in reasonably good focus. Now when you combine those two tips shooting at a smaller aperture like f8 to f16, you're gonna have a wider range. And when you have a more wide range, you're gonna have a lot more wiggle room to capture things as they either walk by, or, you know, if you're walking on the street and you need to be responsive and quick, zone focusing really is the way to go. It's a way for you to set up your focus without having to fiddle with your lens, without, you know, really needing to sit there and take the time to focus. Once you set that predetermined range of focus, you can walk around and know that if they are 4 feet away, for example, you're gonna get them in good, acceptable focus. So that's kind of my main 2 tips for zone focusing. You know, if there's anything that I would recommend you guys try to practice, it's gonna be exactly that. And I hope you guys, you know, learn something from this video, or even just refresh your memory on it. I don't know, but thank you guys, man, for tuning in to another King James video. The Queen, the Voigtlander Bessa R2a, is back. I'm planning to do more videos on it, but I want to see first if I can get it repaired with the Rangefinder. Hopefully it shouldn't be too big of a struggle, but that's gonna wrap it up, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. As always, nNothing.